It's showtime, folks. Enjoy the show.
Happy Saturday matinee to you, gentlemen. Steve, Andy.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, stealing my morning phrase, Andy.
Good morning.
Good morning is your phrase, Steve.
Trademark.
Dang it. I don't get to go first on anything on this show.
No, you found the loophole this morning.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. Wow, what a week. Right? With the movie drama. Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, California is on fire, which is unreal given the true tragedy in the South and East. And now, I mean, these are my old stomping grounds. Really deepest thoughts with folks who are affected in Northern California by the fires. It's a horrible spectacle going on up there. And Harvey Weinstein.
Oh, wait. So here's the segue you need, Pete. On Deadline.com. The dumpster fire that is the Harvey Weinstein scandal will continue to burn a while longer.
Everything's burning in California.
I was actually going for something like that, but now that I hear it written out, it doesn't play.
Oh.
I take it back. I regret that I even thought about it. Yeah, man, boy, when this guy torpedoes himself, he goes big.
Just like his career.
Yeah. Do we have, are there kind words left to say of Harvey? I don't think anybody liked him before.
He did a nice edit on Cinema Paradiso, a while back.
Yeah, how many movies did he re-edit and ruin theoretically?
He re-edited one and made it better, apparently, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a kind of a. I mean, I will say that the Weinsteins did have a good handle on kind of a different direction for the industry, and having some of the great stuff that came out of Miramax, I think was nice, and I think they've struggled with the Weinstein Company since they shifted to that. But boy, with all of this, it's just, I mean, his name is tainted. People are saying that Wind River might lose all chance of getting any Oscar nominations because of it, because it was under the brand. People are trying to figure out what to do with The Current War, the other big Weinstein movie that was going to be pushed this fall for Oscar contention. Now they're like, well, do we release it, or do we have to shelve it for a year or so, or sell it to another company? It's crazy. It is it's amazing how many layers his scandal has wrought across the industry with people who largely weren't involved in that.
It's just horrifying. And I don't know, where do you stand on the people who were quiet for too long trope?
Oh, well, yeah, it's like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck have just been like sucked into this negative whirlpool here because they were, that was really their career built on that. And it's just, it's one of those things where there's so many people saying you were involved so long with Harvey. How did you not see? How did you not know that this was going on? Or was it just, it's easier to look away, to have he's sort of maybe he pushes limits, but I'm just going to, look the other way. Maybe not knowing some of the worst things, but being aware somewhat of, he's that kind of guy. It's a really challenging position for, I think, them both to be in, and a lot of people. I mean, I think Kevin Smith came out, a
lot of people
with a statement, but it's just, again, it's one of those, it doesn't surprise anybody. And that's the shock. That's the thing. If nobody was surprised, why did it take so long?
Well, and people on both sides knew, and they all had their mouths shut. Like Ben Affleck came out and said something, and Rose McGowan, who apparently was somebody who had been harassed, she fired right back at him because, she knew that he knew. And, it's just like all of these things. It's like, it's just kind of releasing a lot of stuff that had been bubbling under, and it's all coming out now. And it'll be a rough time, I think, for a lot of people in the industry.
I think it's one of those things. I have a hard time blaming those who knew and didn't come forward for any number of reasons, but I certainly recognize that what happens in a state of trauma is, the fear that goes along with it, that you can't imagine that this happened, that it feels like another reality, that you don't want to come forward alone, that it didn't happen to me, even though I knew it happened. It didn't happen to me. It's not my place. Like the sort of feelings and emotions that come along with dealing with post-trauma events, including sexual assault, is incredibly complicated, right? It's something that you can't just say she should have come forward sooner, and do that with a sense of judgment or blame. I just don't think that's fair. And in this case, I feel like we needed an instigator like Rose McGowan, who has taken the lion's share of sort of praise and public punishment for the way she has handled this. But we needed somebody who was willing to start the avalanche, so to speak, and create a space where people are at least less fearful about coming out and speaking for themselves because they know they're not alone. That's what probably needed to happen. As horrible as it is, it went on decades too long. He should have been caught and ousted years ago. I get that, but I also feel a great deal of compassion for the people who were struggling because they feared for their really fragile careers. I mean, these people are stars now, but careers in Hollywood are enormously fragile. So I get it. I get it. I think we need to cut these folks a little bit of a break.
Yeah. Well, Rose McGowan, I think it was like last year or a couple of years ago, had, spoken about sort of, sexual harassment and abuse in Hollywood and hadn't named names, but said, it happened to her and women need to have the strength and unify to come out and start standing up for these things. So when this story broke, I was not surprised to see her name attached because I know it's something that she has been very passionate about, that, things need to change and women cannot let themselves be subjected to this for fear of, the impact on their career.
Absolutely. And you have, people who have become real firebrands for this. Mika Brzezinski had a 3-book deal with Hachette, which is the, his brand, his book company. And she pulled the deal, mostly because as soon as it was announced, apparently she said, don't go for press on this thing. I'm not ready. I don't want this, I don't want to, we signed the contract, but I don't want you to do anything. He immediately rushed to Page Six and said, we've got a 3-book deal with Mika Brzezinski. And then this comes out. She pulled the deal until the company was reorganized and he was taken off the charter. Like he's out of Hachette now, and it's been reorganized. There are some women in leadership there, and she's back on it. But she has been sort of loudly beating the blame drum. Why haven't you come out sooner? And I think that's really that's a tough line to hold for too long. These are people who obviously struggled with their decisions. So it probably is happening the way it was supposed to happen to build up enough momentum against this guy. I mean, he was, for good or ill, executive producer behind 331 titles. Like he's the giant boulder in the indie cave, he's a powerhouse, or was.
Yeah.
So anyway.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with the company, with their future movies, with just any future work, if they're going to have to close the company or sell the company or rebrand the company. It's curious.
I heard rebranding. I got that, but they're seriously thinking about a dissolution.
Well, I guess now that I'm reading a little more, Bob ended up coming out after that report saying that they were going to either sell or shutter the company. But now he said, no, that's not true. We're not exploring that, but we are trying to figure out a plan. So I'm not sure if that was something that they'd considered and somehow it got out, or what, but they, obviously there's a lot of decisions that have to be made right now. So we'll see how it goes.
Is Wind River the only thing in theaters right now that they're concerned about?
Well, of their big films, it was the Wind River and then the one that's coming out later in the year, the Current War. That's the one that they're really at a loss for what to do, because it's because it's a big Oscar, push for them. But, now people are saying, if we push that with the Oscars, it's going to make people think about this, and it's going to lose all of its chances. So no one's really quite sure what's going to happen. I mean, I think the other one that was just out was Tulip Fever, but I don't think that really got much of a release.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I don't actually. I mean, I think it was here for a week.
Yeah, that disappeared pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, what else is on your list? Do we want to talk box office?
Yeah, it's been. I don't know if it's been a huge box office right now. I think it was 4 movies open this past weekend. It was Happy Death Day, The Foreigner, Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman, and Marshall. Happy Death Day actually did a great job for its Thursday night previews. It didn't do as well as it did, but it did do better than Ouija, Origin of Evil, which opened same time last year. It got $1 million during its previews, so that's a good start for kind of that silly comedy horror that they're going for, and it seems like the crowd has been kind of looking for that. The Foreigner that's Jackie Chan's new one. That's gotten really bad reviews, so I don't know if that's going to really last at all. Unless people
that makes me so sad.
Well, but you got to look at a lot of Jackie Chan films. Like, how many of them got good reviews? I don't know if people go to Jackie Chan movies for the reviews. I think they go to watch Jackie Chan fight.
Yeah.
So,
but that's the problem, because I think he was just on NPR the other day, and he says, I think I'd like to do a drama. I'm not sure that's a great idea.
Maybe step away from that one. Yeah, maybe not, Jackie. Maybe not. But it's one of those times right now. I mean, it is certainly still really popular in theaters. Unfortunately, I think Blade Runner has been not doing as well as people were expecting it to, considering the reviews. But it's certainly one that we all love, and I think we're all still hoping that it's going to end up finding its place.
Has it aged well with you guys?
I can't stop thinking about it, and I really want to go check it out again.
Yeah, that's exactly where I am. I just trying to look at my calendar to see where can I fit this in before it, because I'm concerned about it starting to leave theaters, because it's, box office, if the audience isn't there, there's more stuff that's going to start filling up those spots. And it was such a tremendous experience. I want to catch it one more time on a really nice size screen, because there's so much to it. I feel like I really need to go back. And I'm with Andy, it's just sort of stuck in my brain, and I can't stop thinking about that whole story.
Me too. Absolutely. It's just beautiful. And I found myself going so far as like downloading a bunch of my favorite stills from the film and making them my computer's desktop wallpaper. Like, I can't stop thinking about the imagery. It is absolutely worth seeing. I sat down, I had the opportunity to sit down with JJ and another friend over dinner a couple of nights ago. And he said that he finally sat down and watched the original Blade Runner. And his response, it surprised me, because I expect everybody who sees Blade Runner to say that they loved it. And I find I get my feelings a little bit hurt when they don't.
Right.
and he said, his response was, yeah, I can see why people love it. Yeah. And I thought, that's the most backhanded compliment of the movie I have ever heard.
Exactly. Well,
I can see why people say they like your shirt too. Doesn't make it Versace.
Well, I think it is with both of them. It's the challenge of the sort of the tone of the film. The first one, the original, is more action oriented, but not really till the last act. And so it is one of these, just explore the setting. It's really about that atmosphere, and you get that. And I think if people are expecting something more and not understanding, this is just a film that takes you slowly through the setting along these stories. Yeah. When you say, oh my gosh, it's this sci-fi classic, depending on what some of their other favorite science fiction films are, they can have some, a range of expectations. So if you're thinking, oh, it's Harrison Ford in the 80s, it's going to be like thrilling adventure, like Indiana Jones in the future. And that's not what it is. So I think, he needs to, now he's seen it once, let it sit, come back maybe in 6 months, and then we can start having real conversations about that with him.
Yeah, well, now he's going to go see 2049, and I know he wants to see it on the big screen, which I think is to its credit. And so hopefully that will improve things for him. But I think he's on, we had some other folks who said in Slack chat, I think even Ben Lott was one of them who said that, he wasn't a huge fan of the original. Therefore, there's a good chance that 2049 will be better for him. And again, for me, those films ended up numbers 4 and 5 on my all-time top favorite flick chart list.
They're really solid films, and definitely it's one that's worth seeing in the theater. It's a really great one. So I hope more people get out and see it as it stands. I think that the box office predictors out there are thinking that Happy Death Day is actually going to beat it at the box office this weekend, which is a real surprise because everybody was kind of expecting that Blade Runner would really kind of hold first place for at least a couple of weeks. And it's I think it's going to be shocking people, but here's hoping that it does find more of an audience.
Did you say it is still performing?
Yeah, it's not like top of the box office anymore, but I mean, it still is, for a horror movie that opened a month ago, it's still doing really well for itself.
And I still haven't seen it. I know. All right, gentlemen, let's do trailers.
Let's do it.
Well, I got the red band
Steve
rule.
found the loophole.
I got the red band rule.
He goes first.
Okay. All right. So I watched this trailer like I watch, it's a movie that I didn't know anything about. And those are the trailers I watch because I want to know, is this something I'm going to go see in theaters? And I was just totally impressed with the talent that's in this. So we've got the late Anton Yelchin. This is his last role. We've got Olivia Cooke, one of my favorites from Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, and Anya Taylor-Joy from Split. This is Thoroughbreds. This looks like an interesting crime film. Like the tagline is "Good breeding goes bad." So we've got some wealthy teens that are getting together with this sketchy guy played by Anton, and they're going to pull off something. And I from the little teaser, I can't really tell what it is, but clearly they need guns and an airtight alibi. And this is coming out March 9th, 2018. First time writer-director Corey Finley. But there's just something about this that looks sort of askew and interesting.
Yeah, I think the trailer, I mean, it's definitely a teaser. It doesn't give you a whole lot. It's only a minute. But it's so much fun. You can tell that this is going to be a story of just a real dark humor sensibility. And the girls look they have a great presence of kind of that rich, sassy, I can do what I want, including kill people sort of attitude, which I think is it's wrong, but they do it so well. And it's just like seeing Anton Yelchin, I'm like, oh, there he is, poor guy. It just made me sad, but it reminded me of how much I always enjoy watching him on screen. So this, I don't get a whole lot of what the story is other than it's kind of, I'm guessing it's going to be kind of a violent, dark comedy sort of thing, but definitely something that looks like something I'd want to watch.
Man, it's cut great. I love some of these shots. The tennis ball getting shot with the in super deep blur in the background. I don't know what's going on back there. Like it's just there are these just wonderful shots in the trailer. If this is a good indicator of the rest of the film, I think it's going to be just really visually interesting. I love the girls. It looks super dark, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Yelchin, of course, is such a bittersweet character on screen. Man, that guy had a lot of promise.
He did. And it was a nice connection to our series. So
yeah. I love it. When did you say when it comes out?
March 2018. We got a little bit of way. It gives us something to to look forward to in the spring next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Andy,
I think you should go because
we got a connection there.
I do. You're right. So my trailer is, man. I knew they were making a film about the New Mutants. I knew that they had talked about doing a 3-parter. I think of around the New Mutants, and but I'd heard nothing of the tone that they were, and I expected it to be just another X-Men movie, and this is not just another X-Men movie. Director Josh Boone, writers joins writers Chris Claremont, who wrote the comic book with Bob McLeod, and Nate Lee, who write this horror asylum thriller in the X-Men universe. It looks very much like almost a locked room horror thriller. It it looks really haunting. They've got all these young kids who are being tested and poked and prodded, and we start to see some of their, some little just quick clips of their powers as they're coming into their own, but it's really painting a picture of New Mutants as a danger to themselves and humanity, and that's why they're locked up in this crazy place. Stars Maisie Williams from Game of Thrones, which is fantastic. It's another Game of Thrones crossover to the X-Men universe, which is great. Anya Taylor-Joy is playing Magic, or Ilyana Rasputin, who is she was the younger sister of Colossus in the X-Men lore. We also have Charlie Heaton is in there as Cannonball. Alice Braga is Dr. Cecilia Reyes. All these characters are for fans of the comic, this is their on-screen persona, and they look great. So I'm actually weirdly excited about this one. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. At least it gives us something decidedly new in the X-Men universe, and we kind of need that. What'd you guys think?
I think it's very exciting to see. We talked about this a little bit when we talked about Captain America, the Winter Soldier, how there are so many comic book movies now that it's nice that we're getting them in different genres. And here we get kind of this comic book superhero movie in a horror genre. And it really got me kind of excited. I don't really know anything about the New Mutants, but from my understanding, kind of the drawing style within the comics is a little sketchier sort of look, and it kind of definitely has this darker tone. And just seeing that they really brought this to life here in this trailer, at least, I'm just like, wow, this looks like a different take on the Marvel superheroes, and I'm kind of excited about this one. It makes me wonder if they're going the R route or if it's going to end up being a PG-13 sort of thing. I don't know if they've released that, but as I do think it's telling that they are releasing it on our next Friday the 13th. So
I'm really interested in this because of, sort of moving into a different genre. But what really surprised me was that it's directed by Josh Boone.
Yeah.
Who did Fault in Our Stars, which is, completely different tone. But
yeah,
because I looked at this, they found somebody that sort of works in that horror genre to pull this off. But now I'm really interested because I think he's done a great job of, capturing that feel, but knowing, with like Fault in Our Stars, that ability to really tell a story focused on characters. So I'm really intrigued by this to see in terms of, the thrills of a sort of scary horror movie, but also, Marvel's ability to balance genres and give us something that's going to be a lot about the characters themselves and not just this is 5 teens sort of stuck in this asylum. We're bringing in the whole mutant aspect, and I'm really interested to see how they grow this story in terms of that tie into the rest of the Marvel universe.
Word is, Steve, that even Scott Neustadter, who co-wrote Fault in Our Stars with Michael Weber, is actually uncredited on the screenplay for this film. So the Fault in Our Stars, the stars are aligned, let's say, around the Fault. So this is going to be everybody's going to be wearing oxygen tanks through the entire. That's all we know. That's all we know.
It's funny. This is like a reverse of Split. Instead of a group of young kids being held by a mutant, this is a group of mutants.
A group of mutants
held hostage I guess not by a young kid, but still, a group of young kid mutants being held
very
hostage
good.
in a basement.
This one, you mentioned that our next Friday the 13th, that would be April 13th, 2018. So we've got a little bit of time, but looks good on the way.
Excellent.
Andy?
My trailer is Roman J. Israel ESQ. It is Dan Gilroy's new film, and starring Denzel Washington and Colin Farrell and Carmen Ejogo. I almost am instantly drawn to any project that the Gilroys are involved in. I just find their storytelling so interesting and exciting, and they they delve into like kind of emotional conflict and turmoil in really interesting ways. I think Nightcrawler was one of the great films of the last few years that somehow just didn't get the recognition that it deserved. It's just such an amazing film. And Dan Gilroy writing and directing again with this one with Denzel at the helm. I mean, it looks fascinating. This one is a story about a liberal lawyer who's just reading kind of from the Wikipedia thing. A liberal lawyer named Roman J. Israel has been fighting the good fight while others take the credit. When his partner, the firm's frontman, has a heart attack, Israel suddenly takes on that role. He finds out some unsettling things about what the crusading law firm has done that run afoul of his values of helping the poor and dispossessed, and he finds himself in an existential crisis that leads to extreme action. That sounds a lot like the sort of things that Dan Gilroy likes to play with. These things where people run afoul of situations and criminals, and there's a lot of turmoil that ends up happening, and people falling into dark areas of the world. I find it really fascinating, and Denzel just looks fantastic in this. I think that he brings a lot to the table, and him opposite Colin Farrell, I think it's just going to be a really exciting film to just see. I hope that this is one of those movies that, kind of connecting back to the Miss Sloane conversation that Steve and JJ just had. I hope that this is one of those movies that doesn't kind of fall by the wayside and disappear because people have a hard time classifying it and may not end up going because they're not really sure what to make of it. But I certainly hope that it does find its audience, and I hope this trailer gets them in the theaters. What do you guys think of this one?
Oh yeah, you pegged it right away with the connection to Miss Sloane. I look at this, and then like Michael Clayton as well, of these films that center on a character, and it's a really focused on the character and some sort of crisis or mystery around them that we're going to go on this journey. And it is hard to market a film like that because you don't have those big trailer moments of like the big action sequence, the big laugh, but it's so much about the performance. And as soon as I started watching this, I thought, oh, this is one of these, Denzel centerpieces, but then to see Colin Farrell in there. And as the trailer plays out, to see that we've got this dynamic between those two, I'm really interested in seeing this. It wasn't something that was on my radar, but after this trailer, it's definitely something I'm prioritizing for November because this is one that I want to make sure I get out to see. I loved Nightcrawler, so I'm really excited to see what Dan Gilroy is doing with this one.
And you brought up Michael Clayton. I just have to say another Gilroy brother, Tony Gilroy.
Exactly.
Anytime Denzel plays an attorney, any kind of attorney. It's weirdly, I think he's so good in these legal things. It just makes me, think about Philadelphia again. It's just how much I ended up loving that movie too. I'm really excited about it. But it's funny because I start thinking about trying to classify Denzel, and it is damn near impossible to do. He's done everything. He's done sports movies. He's done revenge movies. He's done legal movies. He's done, for crying out loud, he did what was the Unstoppable Train remake? Unstoppable. It was Unstoppable, right?
That's what it was.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot that was the name and then used the name in a sentence. That happened. Shut up. Nobody asked you guys. He's done everything, and it's tough not to get excited about Denzel on stage or on screen. He's just fantastic. So I'm a big fan.
Well, this is going to be opening next month, November 10th. So put it on your calendars, and I bet this will be something that we'll be hearing more about. I'd like to think this is something we'll be hearing more about when it comes time for Oscar nominations. Here's hoping.
All right, gentlemen, it's time for the list. Andy, what did we come up with last week?
Well, considering we started the reboots with J.J. Abrams' 2009 Star Trek, our first decision was really kind of, hey, you know what, let's do something about movies where characters end up getting played by new actors. And so that's kind of our list, right? I know you have a more specific written out version of it, but...
I don't, and that was enough. That was enough. But I just want to clarify because I hope I didn't break any rules. Does it have to be a part of a series? Did we say that it had to be a part of a series?
No,
I don't think so.
Okay, so it's just as long as the character is the same.
Yeah,
we're okay.
And I was a little torn. Like as I was going through, I'm like, gosh, does a remake count? And I wasn't sure a remake really counted, but I wasn't going to discount it if somebody brought it up because we didn't really talk about that. But
I assure you, Andy, somebody did.
All right,
twice.
As I understand, the underlying rule on all of these is films that have not been discussed on the next reel before.
That's what I don't think it's been specified as a flat out rule, but it's certainly a challenge that we try to live up to because there were a good number.
Yes. Oh yeah. That and who knows who knows if I made that. I actually now I look at my list. I'm trying to think. I have to go to the site and search? Did we actually talk about this movie?
It's getting to that point.
I can't remember. Okay, so I just want to be clear that I do have a little bit of grace in my heart. Steve already had the red band rule. I want to relax my rule on this particular list and say, Steve, would you please go first?
Oh, you're going to regret that. All right. Well, I want to say the challenge that I found myself with, because at first I thought, oh my gosh, this is impossible. But then I guess, is it limited to fictional characters or is it historical characters can be included as well? Because we've got a lot of important historical figures that have been characters in films, over time. So I was trying to balance that out. And in the middle of the night last night, I realized here's one I had completely overlooked. And I'm going to start off with Harrison Ford as Jack Ryan.
Oh, because that one off my list.
That was,
yep.
Now there have been other actors that have played Jack Ryan since then, but Harrison Ford is the Jack Ryan and really stole that role, from what had been established by Alec Baldwin in The Hunt for Red October. And I think, that was an important shift for that franchise to move from Alec Baldwin to Harrison Ford. And I think it really cemented that as a potential franchise that has struggled to find its footing with other actors since then. So for me, it is, Harrison Ford is Jack Ryan.
Is there a particular movie that stands out as the defining Harrison Ford one?
To me, it's Clear and Present Danger.
These cartels represent a clear and present danger to the security of the United States of America.
How dare you come in here and bark at me like a junkyard dog?
Yeah, I think we all probably just crossed that one.
Yeah, that'd be the one. Well done, gents. That was exceptional.
Solid
exceptional.
Choice. All right, Pete, you're up.
Okay. This is. I started going through the list and realized here's one that I am a huge fan of. I'm a huge fan of the entire scope of this set of comedies, be it screen or even stage, and that is Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. I'm a huge fan of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. I laugh every time I see it. The musical is really funny. The film is terrific, and the original film is also terrific. It was called not Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. It was called Bedtime Story in 1964. The character is, of course, Freddie Benson, who was originally played by Marlon Brando in the original opposite David Niven. And it was Steve Martin who rebooted that particular character in the movie Dirty Rotten Scoundrels with Michael Caine in 1988. It's funny. Every time I watch it, it does fall within the IMDb star rule, the original film, which at 6.8. So it's over 6.5, which means there's a really good chance you're going to like it too. So if you haven't seen the original Bedtime Story, it's really worth seeing. And you should watch them back to back to see how Brando and Steve Martin handle the character of Freddie Benson.
I didn't even realize that was a remake. I think that's crazy.
Yeah,
and now
it's
really
crazy.
Want to watch
totally,
especially since Marlon Brando's in it. That just Marlon Brando and David Niven sound like the most odd pair.
It is a totally odd pair, and you watch this movie and you think, why does this not have more of an institutional memory? Like we should know of this movie. Why did it just disappear? So totally worth it. There you go. That's my number 3 pick.
All right.
Yeah, that's on my list of shame. I hang my head low. I have still never seen Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. It's one of those. What? I know. It's just like, yeah, I'll get around to it. And yeah.
Oh,
goodness.
That's just, there's so many great lines in that film. The movie is just so funny.
So good.
It really is. All right. Well, my first pick here, guys, is a fantastic comic book movie that I wasn't really expecting to like at all, because I found the first one that they made of this particular character in the 90s just to be atrocious. And I was like, oh, this is just, there's no way that they're going to do this well. And then I kept hearing about how they did such an amazing job with it and everything. I'm like, oh, I'll check it out. And I absolutely loved it. And it is, of course, the 2012 film Dread that Pete Travis directed with the fantastic Carl Urban, our current McCoy, at playing the titular Judge Dredd. And the way that he plays this character is just so awesome. And the fact that he never takes his helmet off is great. It's just like everything they did with this character. It made me more interested in the Judge Dredd property. I haven't pursued that, but I still found it a much more interesting kind of sci-fi future world that they created here. And I just love this story. I love that idea of them kind of going into this tower and essentially kind of getting locked into it a la The Raid. But I think they do just a fantastic job of giving us this story, and with a fantastic villain played by Lena Headey. So that's my pick for my number 3 is Dread.
I knew you were going to pick that. That was on my other list. The list of Andy's going to pick that, so don't pick that.
You just knew.
Well, that's good. That's a good pick.
Yeah, I didn't know that had such a high place for Andy. It's one that I enjoyed. It was an interesting take on sort of rebooting the character, and I think they came up with a really unique and interesting story. And it's one of those that I thought had an interesting start and had hoped that they were going to do more with that, and haven't heard anything. But I think it was an interesting take on the character, and I hope we can see more.
Yeah, I don't know if it did that well at the box office. I don't know if we're going to get another one, but which is a shame. All right, Steve, what's your next one?
Okay, so I'm looking at my list, trying to figure. All right, back in the early 80s and cable TV, I discovered as a young, nerdy Dungeons and Dragons playing teenager a movie that just blew my mind, and that is Excalibur. And so I'm going with Merlin, because Nicole Williamson's portrayal of Merlin was one that just really stuck with me from the first moment I saw that film. To me, he was almost like it was his story, and it just the comedy that he brings to that is just something that seems out of place in a sort of medieval action adventure story. But it was just such a thrilling portrayal. And there have been lots of other Merlins, and Merlin the Magician. There's all kinds of takes on him. But for me, he will always be Merlin.
That's funny. That's one that I watched later in life. I came to that one, I don't know, probably in the last couple of years. And it was a film I was like, oh, why do people love this so much? It didn't hit me well. So I need to go back and revisit that one, because I think enough people love it where it deserves another look.
Oh, it's just, for me, it's now interesting to watch again and look at everyone who is in that movie.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
That I didn't know as like a 12 or 13-year-old, but now there's familiar faces, because you've got like Patrick Stewart is in there, and a really young Gabriel Byrne, and Helen Mirren in there. And I think, yeah, there are parts of it that haven't aged well, but I think story-wise, yeah, give it another shot.
I don't remember that movie at all. Not even a little bit.
It's like the King Arthur movie from the 80s.
I'm sure I saw it. I had to have seen it.
There was
what sort of bore hasn't seen Excalibur? It was
interesting, because the other thing was there was the PG version and then the R version that was on HBO. So there are like two versions, and I don't know now which one was the original. If it was, I think it was probably originally rated R, and then, hey, kids will want to see this, and they cut out a whole bunch of stuff, I think for cable for kids or something. Probably, like that. Yeah.
I just remember being incredibly gritty. Yeah. Like it was so much grittier than I was used to for like King Arthur sorts of stories. It's definitely not the Disney version.
Heck no.
It's very much. It's very much a John Boorman film.
Man, John Boorman came right off of Exorcist 2 for this one. Zardoz. No, that's a great pick. Okay, so my number 2 pick. This is another one that I'm a big fan of on stage or screen, and that is juror number 8, 12 Angry Men. In the original 1957, this role was played by Henry Fonda. He was absolutely terrific. In 1997, Jack Lemmon played the same role. And actually, every one of the jurors, the unnamed jurors in this film, are fantastic to watch. But for me, obviously, the juror number 8, that sort of linchpin role, is just amazing. And both of them were at the very top of their games. And I know that they both personally, as actors, deeply love the material, and you can just feel it as they wind their way through these films. You've seen both of them, right?
No, I've just seen the Henry. Yeah,
I've
seen the Henry Fonda one, and then I've seen the Inside Amy Schumer 12 Angry Men, which to me is a piece of genius. Down to the casting is just brilliant. Have you seen that, Pete?
No, no, I have not. I'm sure. Believe me, I get it, and I'm sure I would love it. But
no. You need to see it. If you love 12 Angry Men, you have to see the Amy Schumer 12 Angry Men, because they're debating whether or not she's really hot or not. But the way it's shot, the casting, everything, it is a work of pure genius. You're either gonna completely hate it because you feel it's disrespectful to the original, or you're gonna appreciate the brilliance and what I feel is the respectful way it treats the original and makes a parody of it.
Well, I have great respect for Amy Schumer. Even at her bawdiest, she is respectful of her role as a comedian, and I think she's a fantastic talent. So I'm sure I'll be in favor of this. I'm in favor of it.
Yeah, I've only seen the original. I haven't even seen the Amy Schumer one, but I really do love the original. I have it at home. It's just a fantastic storytelling. I missed the Jack Lemmon one. That's a totally different version with Jack Ryan. But Harrison Ford was great in it.
As juror number 8.
No, but it's I'll have to check the Jack Lemmon one out because I've always loved him. All right, so for my second pick, gents, I'm going with the fantastic Oscar-winning film from 1991, The Silence of the Lambs. We have the continuation of the story. This time it's with Clarice Starling, the FBI trainee, trying to solve a crime. But she does have to go and talk to Hannibal Lecter, still in prison, and try to figure out what's going on with his assistants. This is, of course, Anthony Hopkins, kind of, I would say, one of his most defining roles. I think that what he brought to the table as Lecter is just brilliant. Some people do argue that Brian Cox had a different take on Lecter in Manhunter, Michael Mann's film from '86, that they still prefer over Hopkins. And while I really love the film Manhunter, I think it's just a fantastic film. Anthony Hopkins for me will always be Hannibal Lecter. I think that he just so defined that role and just creeped the hell out of everybody. So that's my number 2 pick.
That's a great pick. I can't believe I didn't think of it. In fact, that's absolutely terrific. And for me, yeah, I mean, Brian Cox is great, but and he would have been terrific had they managed to put him in these films. But I can't imagine. It makes me want to see, just even more Lecter stories with Hopkins in them.
Absolutely,
just bring them, every single one.
For me, it was an interesting discovery when, I worked at a video store in high school, had heard great things about Manhunter, had never seen it. Silence of the Lambs came out, loved that film. And everybody's like, there is this other Hannibal Lecter movie out there that's really good and really overlooked. Still have never gotten around to see it because I feel that really Anthony Hopkins just nailed that role so much. And I know there have been, there's the TV series in this, but I think, again, it's that perfect pairing of an actor with a role that really defines it.
Well, definitely go check out Manhunter. Did you see Red Dragon?
No, oh, is that the Ed Norton?
Yeah, it was basically a remake of Manhunter, but this time with Anthony Hopkins playing the Lecter role and really boosted up. The thing with Manhunter is Lecter's part is fairly small. It's definitely not the focus of the story. It just happens to tie in just in a few little parts, and it works nicely the way that they do it. But really, the focus of the story is on Will Graham as he's trying to track down Francis Dollarhide. So it's a Michael Mann film from the '80s. You gotta check it out.
Yeah. Okay. Wait, Andy's telling me to go watch a Michael Mann film? that isn't collateral? Okay.
Oh, all right, Steve. What's your third and final pick?
Okay. I'm so torn because there's so many good ones on my list that it's hard to narrow it down, and I could take the easy out or I could take the challenging one. I'll take the controversial one, and I'm going to go with 2010 Jeff Bridges as Rooster Cogburn. I know this sort of gets into the remake thing, but to me, I think you've got two iconic characters. I think Jeff Bridges really, reinvented this character for a new generation in, the Coen brothers' True Grit. So it was one of those, for me to, how does Jeff Bridges fit into this? And to me, he really transformed himself from the dude into the rooster. And this one, I just had a great time with it. I did not grow up watching a lot of John Wayne films. I'm not a huge John Wayne fan. I have seen the original True Grit and enjoy it, but I think to me, Jeff Bridges' performance in this one really, sets them apart.
Yeah, that was on my list if I was going to go with a remake. I really enjoyed that film, and you're right. I mean, Jeff Bridges was brilliant in that role.
I adored that movie. I think it was great, not least of which for Jeff Bridges' portrayal of Rooster Cogburn, but Haley Steinfeld's portrayal of Maddie Ross she was unreal in this movie. I mean, to my eye, she was
what a find.
Incredible find for this movie. So, but everybody in this was at the top of their game, and Jeff Bridges was he was great. He wasn't the dude, and that's the reason to see it. Dude slam.
Man.
Oh, I forgot about you and your...
That's right.
As I recall, when we talked about that, you liked it more than you...
I liked it more than I remember it. But
so I'm going to hold that.
Now it's become much more fun to be the guy who really doesn't like it. It's everybody. It's a badge movie. This is what we were talking about. It's a movie that I am proud to say I don't like. Makes everybody crazy.
I'm going to have to... You between you and Ben Lott, I swear, your badge movies, you're out to get me. I'm like, what? You're poking the bear. You're asking for it. Sometimes, the bear eats you. Sometimes you eat the bear.
It will have been worth it. All right, is it my turn?
It's your turn.
I can't believe it. We've done 6 George Clooney movies on the show over the years, and we've never done Ocean's 11.
That's right.
You believe that?
I can.
I love Oceans. I love the Oceans movies, and this is I am loud and proud on these movies. Danny Ocean, Frank Sinatra played the original Danny Ocean, but the remake / reboot gave us a series of Oceans movies, and I love every one of them. Suck it, losers. I think they're fantastic. And Danny Ocean is charismatic and charming, and he makes me want to be a ne'er-do-well ex-con in Las Vegas. He is an aspirational character for me, and I'd hang out with Brad Pitt.
It's time for that career change.
Right? That's all me. So I'm very excited about Ocean's 11, and I'm thrilled to say that I got there first because I know, Andy, these were going to be high on your list too.
Oh, you know that, do you?
Oh, Pete, I'm there with you. I will gladly celebrate all 3 of these movies. Unfortunately, I don't think you'll ever be Danny Ocean unless you've got Steven Soderbergh speaking into your ear, delivering you some of the sharpest, wittiest dialogue written.
True.
In this, that Danny has.
But you know what? I would deal with that. If I have to live with a bug in my ear to have Soderbergh, as long as he would commit to doing his part, I would do mine.
Okay.
I've never really loved these films. I have fun with them. But I also feel like they're, in my world, they're kind of, they're fluff Soderbergh. And I watch them and I go, oh, that was fun. And then I don't have to watch it again. Although weirdly, I'm the guy who totally did find Ocean's 12 the most enjoyable of the 3.
Oh, no. So, yes, a lot of people don't like that. Listen to, if you get a hold of the, commentary to listen to, because it's really interesting to hear Soderbergh talk about how he shoots those movies, particularly Ocean's 12, because there's such a large cast, and some of those where they're all together in one room. And he talks about how he lets the guys just sort of find their spot. They've done this before. They've worked together. They all find their spot. And then his challenge that he has for himself is he's shooting that just as they're going, but he never goes and repeats a shot. So you're not going to see like a camera set down in one place and he's going to keep cutting back to that angle. He is always moving around, finding new angles and ways to shoot them as they're having that conversation all around the room. Really interesting insight into his process.
Which I think as a filmmaker could only be done if he was also shooting and editing it, which he is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is a celebration of like, I mean, these things are incredibly complex cuts, and he has an enormous, like, beautiful, opinionated eye in terms of how he cuts and paces these things, and it makes it really fun. So I hereby tell all my clients, yes, many of the filmic product that I have created for you was very much inspired by Steven Soderbergh's Ocean's 11. You're welcome.
There you go.
All right, what's your last one, Andy?
My last one, there are some fantastic franchises that have repeated characters, and I was trying to find one that I really enjoyed. And of all the ones that I ended up going with, I focused in on Batman, and I was looking at all the varieties of Batmans that have been out there, and I think there have been 9 of them now. And the one that I'm going with, though, is possibly my favorite because it just it was the perfect version of Batman that I think that I had been waiting for, and that is Will Arnett playing Lego Batman. And specifically focusing on, we were introduced to him in the Lego movie, but specifically focusing on the Lego Batman movie because of the brilliant way that the filmmakers brought in every iteration of Batman into this story. I mean, we go all the way back to Adam West, and we see like every version of Batman as he's remembering his past and everything. It is just like the perfect way to spoof Batman while also really paying homage to this fantastic character. I had so much fun with it, and I still love Will Arnett as Batman. Anytime he kind of pops up in it, I just think it's hilarious. So that's my final pick, the Lego Batman movie.
I had a hard time with that movie, and I'm saying I love it, and everything that you've just said is fantastic. It's great. But I had a hard time just adjusting to that movie because I expected it to have the same sort of weird twist of heart that the Lego movie had, which is, obviously it's sort of impossible to just kind of recreate that experience of first-time viewing of the Lego movie. But I thought that the final 15 minutes of the Lego movie was transcendent.
It really was, yeah.
After such a goofy first, 3/4 of the movie, it was just amazing. And Lego Batman movie was just the Lego Batman movie. And the other Lego movies are the Lego movies, and they just haven't been able to recreate that experience for me.
No, I think it's going to be hard for them to get back to a Lego movie type of experience like that. But for what they did here, I really just loved the way they brought Batman in and just welcomed all of them.
It was surprisingly thoughtful.
Did you see that one, Steve?
See, no, I have not seen the Lego Batman movie, but I liked that take on Batman in the Lego movie, and because I'm a gaming nerd, have the Lego Dimensions game on our Xbox One, and there's the first part of that story is set in the Land of Oz. So it's hilarious when Scarecrow shows up and Batman's freaking out because Scarecrow's there. Which I thought was just brilliant.
That is so funny. You're right. Game. I had totally forgotten that.
So it's one that, as my kids are older, it's not such a high priority that they're itching to see Lego Batman, but I really enjoy what they did with him in the Lego movie. And it's on my list to get around to. So I'll take your recommendation and have a laugh with some lighthearted Lego Batman as opposed to the dark and brooding Batman that we've had over the past.
If you're a fan of Batman, it's definitely worth checking out because I mean they even continue his feud that he had with Batman or with Superman in Batman versus Superman. They continue that feud in this film, and he goes to talk to Superman up at the Fortress of Solitude, and Superman's having a party with all the other superheroes, but didn't invite Batman. It's just so funny. It's just brilliant. They did such a great job with it.
Yeah, it is really funny. You're right. There's our list. What a great list. We put the list in the show notes. You can swipe over on your mobile device and you will see all of our movies, and you'll be able to jump to the trailers of the reboots that we like the best. What are we going to do for this coming week? Andy, have you put any thoughts to it?
I haven't. That's a good question. We've got a rebirth of Khan reprising his role. We have some nonsensical sci-fi technology that is developed further.
I'm sensing a little bit of prejudging.
Who, me? No.
We haven't talked about it yet, and I'm sensing a little bit of prejudging. Yeah.
Let's see. What should we do? Sequels? Sequel remakes?
No, Andy, I expect many more rules than that.
That's terrible.
I feel like there is something buried in your extravagant use of sci-fi technology to further the plot.
We should do something with
that's not it,
with
but I feel
people
like that's
with super strength or something. Like what? Because what is Khan?
They're genetically engineered.
Genetically engineered.
We do genetic engineering. I don't know. That's falling flat for me.
I mean, the core of the whole thing is the whole Kirk Khan sort of like nemesis revenge plot. I don't know if there's something in there, because that's what really makes that story,
not
from the original.
Not in this one. There's not the.
Is there not the revenge in this one? Well, no. Well, I guess it's not revenge against Kirk. It's revenge against Starfleet.
Yeah. It's Khan's revenge.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like we're getting somewhere in the either nonsensical use of technology to further the plot or revenge, evil duo revenge plots.
I think it's gonna. I think the nonsensical of ridiculous technology as a plot solver or to plug a hole. I think that's a more interesting list, because I think the revenge thing, we're gonna probably come up against that again later on with something else. Whereas we're sort of in the sci-fi thing, and we may not get around to sci-fi again in a while. So I'd prefer to go that way.
It's a definitely more challenging list to put together.
I think so too. Nonsensical use of technology to fill a hole in the plot.
All right. That's what it is, I guess.
That's what we're doing? Okay.
Good luck, gents.
Good luck, gents. All right. Well, this will be a lot of fun. As ever, thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to the show, because if you're doing that, you're probably most likely, please, pretty please, a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/thenextreel. We sure appreciate you letting us do this and supporting us as we get together early Saturday mornings to jaw about movies. Thank you, Steve and Andy. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning.
Reclamation. That was good. Talk to you guys later.
Bye.